Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. We salute Lord Krishna, world teacher, son of Vasudeva, destroyer of Kamsa and Chana, supreme bliss of Devaki. Om Sahanavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahavirem Karavavahai, Tejasvinavaditam Astu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May He protect us both, may He nourish us both together, may we work conjointly with great, great energy. May our study be vigorous and effective. May we not mutually disagree with each other unnecessarily. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So before we commence, the usual thing for me to do is to ask, are there any questions? And with Nigeria's population increasing rapidly, it would be an impossible question to answer.
Between the distinction when you mentioned last week, I think it was between a personal God and an impersonal God.
Okay, right. So when we talk of an impersonal idea of God, that's different from an impersonal God. And the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita begins by comparing these two. And if we were to say that there is an absolute somewhere with no moving parts and no change in evolution, nothing we can notice, nothing we can define, nothing that we can pinpoint down at all. If you take space away, what is there? If you take time away, what is there? You can't conceive of such a thing. And so the human need is to conceive of such a thing in a person's own way, and various people and religions have done this. That means there's no necessity to fight about concepts. Your concept is as good or different, and as good or bad or imperfect as mine. But some concept has to be there. To make it easy for us, from time to time, from age to age, the cosmic balancing, cosmic mind comes and gets born. We call this avatara, that is incarnation. More accurately or more literally, some entity that descends to us, that comes to a human level, human understanding, and we can easily see this light of lights and take this as a great example. And that's why many religions would have this idea. Many religions really, meaning categories of Christianity and Hinduism. And also some northern Buddhism would have it in the form of bodhisattva. So the idea is that out of compassion, the Lord Himself gets born and takes you by the hand and lifts you up, offers Himself to you and me as a shining example, shining light, and all the time being constantly aware of their divine nature, unlike us. And so Krishna is viewed as one such entity, and we know from the previous chapter that He reveals this. He reveals His cosmic nature. But how can we easily understand this? And so He ends the 11th chapter by saying, by inferring that Arjun, and therefore all of us, should engage in some kind of worship, and therefore the question arises, because previously the idea of an impersonal entity has been there. The immortal self, the Atman, the center of your own being, is one with Brahman according to the heights of Vedanta philosophy. And so should we go and worship this impersonal one? Even the words don't make any sense. You can only use a word worship when there's an object. And so for the great jnanis who follow this path, that's possible. It's a valid path, and Krishna says it, but those are very dear to me who take this personal aspect. And so the whole of these chapters, actually from the 6th chapter onwards, seventh after the 6th chapter we can say, onwards, has been about this type of yoga, which we call Bhakti Yoga. That means the yoga of non-demanding love. Of course, there is demanding love as well, and there's an aspect of that. But that's a kind of human love. I love you if you love me. If you don't love me, I don't love you. Like a bargaining process takes place. This is the human realm of love. But you see, if this personal God is the embodiment of pure love, we should find this everywhere. We should find that we are loved. And we get it wrong when we blame an unsuspecting God for our difficulties. When things go well, we thank ourselves. When they go badly, we blame God. That's the difficulty. So we have a wrong idea about this. What is God is if not this flowing grace that we experience all the time, that comes and arrives as thought itself, as speech itself, as the capacity to see and hear and touch and taste. Does it not come as the wind in our favor? Does it not come as air? Does it not come as food? Does it not come as the drama of rainfall? You see, snow comes. It looks dead. But soon there's a drama that plays. It melts. And that flows ultimately into an ocean. It gets evaporated by the heat of the sun, forms clouds. It condenses as rain and produces food, and we munch and crunch. And hardly a word of thanks. So the sweetness of a relationship between a personal God is being emphasized in this chapter. Now, since everybody has different capacity, surely there should be a system that embraces everybody so we don't have to fight. Nobody has to say, do this is the way I do it, this is my broken ladder, you all have to use it. No. Construct your own well-constructed ladder also as well. A bladder is supplied free of charge. You don't have to construct that at all. It's constructed for you. But you see, every cell is constructed so well. How a biologist could ever lose any faith in this is beyond me, because when you see at the cellular level how beautifully all compensation for a cell is made. Cell is an individual entity. It's a cooperation of cells that we call the body. The holistic version of a cell is called the human body. And when we see that, how it works, it's a miracle. Actually, how this universe works is a kind of miracle, because we have over 24 factors, what we call constants, that keep this universe in balance perfectly. A little bit more gravity, everything would collapse. A little less, it would all fly off. The most fine-tuned entity that we know of is called cosmological constant. And its ratio is something like 0.123 zeros, followed by 2. If that changes one small fraction, instead of 2 it's 3, or 1 zero is taken away, the whole of this universe goes into disarray. Imagine. Now this is what we call fine-tuned. Others constants within 10%, something like that, so it varies. But some are on a knife edge. And so we only have a few explanations for this. But those who introspectively investigate, who am I? What am I? Will come to a conclusion that I am pure consciousness. And that is the basis from which we operate. But how to get there? How to connect with the self, which has no form, no shape, other than the whole universe is its form. The whole universe is its shape. It just has to be recognized. But what we do mentally, we fragment everything. This whole universe is only one entity, but we don't have a holistic vision about it. We see things in parts and segments and individualities, and then hook on to this temporary thing. Like a wild horse, we hang on to desperately, thinking it will live forever, and it won't. So this is all here within the context of the Bhagavad Gita. So what to do? So in the last week we discussed You have to fix your attention, fix your mind on the Supreme. But who's got the capacity to steadily do that is the next question. And if that's all there is to it, this is hardly a universal religion or a universal message. Out of sheer compassion and understanding, we should understand we all have different capacities. Not everybody can fix their minds in this way. You examine your own life, you'll find your mind is hardly fixed on anything. When you go to the shopping center, it may be fixed on shopping, but even there, it's not fixed. You know, as you enter into the supermarket, you say, oh, and this, oh, and that. See? Unless you have a mind to go in, head for what you want, and go out. And some people can do that. But other people, they'll go in. And supermarkets know this. They're not stupid, you know. So they'll put all the luxury items in the front, and you want the milk at the back. And you have to go through all these luxury items, and your eye catches this and that. So your wife might send you out for a bottle of milk, and you'll come out with a whole trolley full of stuff. So this is the way the mind behaves. But we know that it can be fixed for a certain time. And I mentioned last week or the week before that all Scripture knows that just for a moment we can fix our attention. We know from childhood this is the case. We know how to divert a crying child's attention. You fall down, graze your knee. Oh, look at this tree, look at the moon, look at this, look at that. They forget that they fell down, they forget their wound, and they're smiling. And then when your attention is deviated again, oh, the pain is back. But the pain isn't there always. It's not there when the attention moves elsewhere. So all of us know that if the mind is entertained sufficiently, then we can be absorbed in something. And so can we also not be absorbed in that greatest of joy, in the sweetest entity? That entity that is enduring and doesn't come, doesn't go. That entity that is like nectar, always sipping nectar from Mother Kali's dark feet. This is the part of the Suprabhatam to Ramakrishna that is sung. So you know the bee of your mind is always sipping this nectar of Mother Kali's feet. These are the words that are said. So we know that from time to time we can have an exercise in constant remembrance, constant practice, where we can bring our attention back, bring our attention back, bring our attention back. It's like a dog, we can allow it to wander off a little bit, and then at an appropriate moment, bring it back, bring it back. Allow it a little freedom, and then bring it back. Have some regularity in doing this, and this has various grades of attention as well. So there's not just one abhyasa or constant practice. There are a number of dilute versions of it or intense versions of it. But nevertheless, some conscious effort is there. But it depends on how much we are attached to the world. What we mean by the world means all the things that the senses catch, eyes, ears, touch, taste, and the relationships that we form. Thinking that we are a separate individual unit and thinking we can't get out of that. There is a way. What is the way? We can make ourselves feel like an instrument. And so this is another method. So fixing your mind, that's the first thing. And then this constant practice, abhyasa yoga, bringing the mind back, a spiritual practice like that. Whenever we observe the mind is wandering off, oh, hey, I allowed you some freedom, now come back, like that. Systematically we can do it. Supposing you can't do that, another way is presented. So if you're unable even to practice this abhyasa yoga, be you intent on doing actions for my sake. Make yourself an instrument. I'm not the doer. I'm happy to be your servant, or I'm happy to be your child. I'm happy to work for you. This is another way. But then if the pull of the world is too strong, habits die hard. If your habit is unable to change or unwilling to change, then is that the end of it? Is there another way? And so this text is very important because it says, if you cannot do that, one more way is there. You can even say or suggest to somebody legitimately, you see, if you sacrifice a little bit, then you'll get a big return. Sometimes you can call it heaven until people are mature enough to understand that it's no reward at all. But somebody can understand, if I'm generous, generosity comes to me. And this is the key to much of religious practice. People go to temples and churches with the idea that if I do this, I can make some bargaining thing. I'm broke, so what will I do? Let's put it in the Catholic context. I'll say 100 decades of the rosary for a month. I promise. But you've got to deliver on your side. That kind of bargaining process is better than nothing. And sooner or later, people learn, oh, I see. This generosity of spirit, I get rewards, but more than that, I get closer to the truth. There's a certain purity of mind that takes place, and a selflessness comes in. So it goes like this: Ataitad apya shakto sikartum madhyogam ashritaha sarva karma paladhyagam tatha kuru yatat mahavan. If you are not able to do even this, unable to do this, then taking refuge in me, that's the key. We'll stop there. If you cannot be an instrument and do all the actions for my sake, then take refuge in me and say, I'm a hopeless case. There's a supreme example of that in Sri Ramakrishna's life. Having said, please, won't you do this, won't you do that? Girish Chandra Ghosh, leading a bohemian kind of lifestyle, said, see, I can't even do that. I don't know what my schedule's going to be. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. And then after all attempts, all commitments, all resolutions abandoned, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can think of God before a meal or before I go to bed. Everybody has to eat. Everybody has to sleep. I don't think I can even do that. All right, says Sri Ramakrishna, give me your power of attorney. I don't have to do anything. And then he realized how difficult that was. I think I'll do this tomorrow. No, wait. You have no capacity to do that. You're not empowered to say it. You can only do it if it's the divine will. That means you surrendered your freedom completely. And through that, he not only learned a spiritual discipline and spiritual practice and became a great saintly man, but he also was a supreme devotee in terms of submitting his will to the divine will. A great, great example of this particular approach. So take refuge in me, abandon the fruits of all actions. You don't have to do anything, but all your rewards, all the gains that you get through your activity, at least register to me. Give them to me. Even partly, and then more and more and more and more, until you realize they don't belong to me. They actually always belong to you. They always will. And you are the supplier, and you are the doer. So, abandon the fruits of all actions with the self-subdued. Self means the egoistic self, the prophet-actor complex. Sri Ramakrishna has this to say: you cannot remain without doing work. Your inborn nature forces you to work. Therefore, let your activities be carried on well. But if they were done without attachment, they take you Godward. Be not affected by the pleasure and pain ensuing from your activities. Associate them all with Ishvara, O God. Prepare yourself in this way for union with Him. Systematically register. It's not me that makes the sun shine. It's not me that provides the skin that enjoys the rays of the sun. It's not me that feels the cold of the snow. It's a skin sensitive to that provided for me. I didn't have any choice. All this provided free. I didn't operate a pair of bellows called the lungs consciously, second by second. The Lord did it for me. Systematically register all of this, and sooner or later we become less and less selfish. Now there are some people then who take some spiritual practice and call it religion and do some kind of duty thinking that's that. Let's take, for example, on Sunday they say, it used to be in the Catholic Church that it was a sin not to go to Mass on a Sunday. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, all nodding. See, nowadays, the nodding nowadays is, it's not nodding in agreement, it's nodding off. Because, you see, you'll go there, do your duty, and come away. And feel that you're absolved from a disaster. What kind of religious practice is that? It has no meaning. Somebody in India lights a lamp. Why did you do that? My mother did it. Her mother did it. It's just a ritual. There are some customs. Why do you do that custom? I don't know, from my childhood we always did it. It's all right. This is kind of blind faith. There has to be some reasoning to it. But is that better than doing nothing? Yes. It's much better to do some kind of formal ritual, if you like, something that at least has some effect, some coloring on the mind. But much better than that is why you're doing this, doing it with some knowledge, with some reasoning, with some intention, with some feeling. And then better than that would be meditation. Much better than ritual is ritual with knowledge and understanding, and much better than that is meditation. It's more subtle. There's a reason why a temple is called Mandir, from Manasa, mind. It's there for meditation. When we do the puja, there's a section there, and that section, we go through the whole thing. That section there is meditation. It doesn't begin like that. It begins with purifying your hands, purifying all the items, purifying the area, making sure that, deleterious elements are done away with, invoking the divine, invoking elements of divinity there, making sure the place is charged with a good vibration, so that even if you go to a GAA hall or something like that, and you're doing something, at least the previous history is now being neutralized by some kind of favorable puja. Some intention going out. And thought is a vibration that ultimately has a suction. It draws things in toward you. And then what is there from there? It's invoking all the rishis and all the sages and so on. May their blessings come to us. And then all the deities, that means that all the different forms of that Supreme, getting as many favorable things as we possibly can in. And then ultimately, what is it? Pranayama, meditation, and then finally inviting the deity before you. It wasn't there previously. You have to invite and invoke, and then giving royal honor there with various offerings and eventually naivedyam, food and so on. All that is offered. And then at the end of it, japa, and the japa also gets offered. You see, the whole thing is meditation. It's just that some people find it difficult to concentrate and to sit and meditate. It's all right. Give them some puja to do. But supposing you do all these activities and you have no idea why you're doing them. It's just book knowledge. Somebody said you have to do this. You have to walk around 3 times, say Bazanka, tap your head 5 times, that's enough. Well, why are you doing it? So all these are just superstitions. But it's better than doing nothing. Better than that is doing it with understanding and knowledge, and better than that is doing it with a deep understanding that leads you to a purification of mind, where the mind becomes suitable for revelation. But there's one thing better than meditation still, and that is the renunciation of the fruit of your actions. Its renunciation is the supreme. And peace immediately follows this kind of renunciation. Jagat, from renunciation, shantihi, peace, antaram, immediately follows. The passage goes like this. Srayohi jnanam abhyasat, jnanat dhyanam vishishyate, jnanat karma phala tyagas, tyagach chanti anantaram. So better indeed is knowledge than formal ritualism, and better than knowledge is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of all your actions, all the effects. Surrender to God. Lord, this is yours, it was yours. Like working in a vineyard. This is Jesus' example. And the owner is not you. And the owner goes away and comes back and says, what did you give? And the one who gets the greatest promotion and doesn't get fired is the one that gave the greatest return, knowing it doesn't belong to me. I'm just doing this out of love for the master, knowing that it's his. I'm just the caretaker. If you have children, you're just the caretaker. They've been given to you to fulfill a purpose. You can visualize it like this, something like an angel waiting in a lift comes to you, a suitable set of parents, through a genetic line, to fulfill a divine purpose, a part in a play, and depart. What is your role in it? Just facilitating it. You have no right to say, it's my child, and then the child lives with you for 40 years. When the child is old enough, that's it. Make its own way, that kind of thing. So this key thing of renunciation, this tyaga, this renunciation is key to the system of spiritual development and purification, and is a key component in the progressive, step-by-step process of bhakti yoga. So ritualist religious practice, in this case is called abhyasa yoga, it's used in that context. Many people do things mechanically without any feeling behind it. You take Sri Ramakrishna there, worshipping Mother Kali. A most unorthodox thing, and people criticize, or the Brahmins say, oh, he's doing things in an unorthodox way. He takes a flower and puts it on his own head, takes some food, gives it to a dog, or eats it himself. This man is mad, and is insulting to the Mother Kali. But seeing and knowing His holiness, they understood this person is not dedicated to ritualism. When he does this, he has a deeper insight. He has a deeper inspiration. And naturally, all the things he does will be in tune with the divine. And inspiring to others also. Can I not also see this factuality of this deity in front of me? So all these various types are there. And a third man sits at the appointed hours, meditates on the truth, and that is divinity that is manifesting itself as the various beings, but then gets up and who knows what he does thereafter. It's in your day-to-day life. All the fruits of your activities, they don't belong to you. Give it back. And that peace immediately follows renunciation. The examples are well known. A few dogs fight amongst themselves for a few pieces of bread strewn about, and evidently there's no peace among them. Krishna gives this example of the kite. A kite snatched a piece of meat from a butcher's shop and flew to a branch of a tree to feast on it. but immediately ensued a scramble when some other birds swooped to loot it. And the kite flew from tree to tree, but then there was no escape from the raiders. You can just imagine it. So to avoid this botheration, he let go the meat. As soon as it let go, it perched quietly upon a bough. I'm not being pursued or harassed. So a sage who saw this scene learnt a lesson from the kite. Tranquility is born of renunciation. Now, whom again, among all the devotees, becomes the favorite of the Lord? This point is now clarified. And I'm going to read now from here to the end, because these passages serve three purposes. The first one is, many people who have a skeptical nature will say, we are agnostic, and the counter to that is to say there are Gnostics. What do we mean? People who know. Because I don't know is a resignation position. If I ask somebody, where is Navan? And they say, I don't know, their job is finished. End of story. But then if I say, or somebody says, no, I know, the next question is, please direct me, and how is it that you know? And all these questions arise. There'll have to be evidence that they know. Not like the country person, who says, well, I wouldn't start from here if I were you. That's a common practice in the country probably, Or where they're so polite. In Africa, they're very polite. They'll point you in any direction, it doesn't matter. They're just fulfilling their obligation, you see. And you can go for miles and miles and realize this doesn't feel right. We should be going westward, and this definitely eastward. So, what is the evidence of somebody who knows? There's a full description here. Of course, previously it was there. We got a beautiful description, but here is an in-depth description. And when we give these personality development courses, the Enneagram, some idea of a well-balanced person. Well-balanced person means not I'm entrenched in this is my nature and I can't change it, I can't fix it. No. Whole idea is you can change it, you can fix it, more importantly, you can balance it. You get the qualities from here, from there, until eventually you see a liberated person you don't know whether he's a number this or number that, and this type of personality, that type of personality, all-rounded person, difficult to categorize. So, here it goes. And I'll comment on the way. I mentioned there were three things. First thing is, this is the evidence, the observational evidence of somebody who says, I know. Because anybody can say it. But this is what a person looks like. Number one. Number two, it serves as a checklist. So as we're reading this, you can see in your own life what adjustments have to be made. And then, of course, it sets as a set of values. This is what I need to cultivate in order to make my life more peaceful, more joyful. You may think that some of this description is extreme. But we are living an extreme life already. We're living a life which is completely full of delusion, thinking that this life is entirely real and valid in an absolute sense. And it's of course real and valid in a relative sense. You see, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. All these opposites are there. If you ask somebody living a so-called lifestyle that they're reasonably happy with for the time being, they won't understand these words. They'll say, but this is real. See, asato ma satgamaya. This is real. No. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Everybody's dying. Should we not seek for immortality? He who hates no being, who is friendly and compassionate to all, who is free from the feeling of I and mine, even-minded in pain and pleasure and forbearing. This is the 13th stanza. can examine this in greater detail. And you can use this as your own checklist. He who hates no being. The word hate in English has become common usage. I hate this, I hate that, you know. I heard somebody say, somebody from who was in a kind of drug culture saying, you know, I hate people who take drugs, such as the customs and the police. Anyhow, you see, but can we really hate? Because the opposite is love. Somebody who's all loving, who has no judgment on anybody, who treats people equally because he sees the divine within them. He means she, that person, you know. He who hates no being, not just humans, no being. We sometimes say, oh yes, I love all these creatures. I have so many pets at home. I love animals, but I hate spiders. Oh, but is a spider not a being also? And can we not learn from the insects? The one great thing in spiritual life is perseverance. There's no greater being that has that tells us about perseverance than an ant. An ant will carry on and on and on and on and on. It seems to have infinite patience. Seems to. Of course, we don't know what is in its mind, if it has one. But there it goes, you see, in line. And then when you look at the whole thing, you see the glory of the divine there, because you see the holistic version. The ant by itself doesn't seem to have much meaning. But then the whole colony has a meaning and a purpose. Look at that. All working in cooperation and coordination. Who is friendly and compassionate to all. You say, I'd like to be friendly with that, but I don't like this person. This person said this and that person said that, but friendly and compassionate. Compassionate, karuna, this quality of compassion means I will sacrifice my own life for you. That would be true compassion, isn't it? Who is free from the feeling of I and mine, because all of these contrary qualities, the adverse qualities, the vices, the opposite of these things that we're telling, all comes from this I and mine. That's all. There's no other thing it comes from. We start with me and mine first, we eat first, and you can have the crumbs. The opposite is, you eat first, I'll take the crumbs. Even-minded in pain and pleasure and forbearing, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, whether it's praise, whether it's blame, whether it's an embarrassing situation or a situation that makes me feel grand, whatever the case, on the mental level, it's praise and blame. On the physical level, it's hot and cold. Even-minded and forbearance, because it's not that I don't feel the cold, but I can tolerate it, you see. Because I can put my mind elsewhere. You can shift your mind away. This all comes from body consciousness. This pain and pleasure comes from body consciousness. When I fix the mind on God, what becomes of it? It's all gone. Having the expertise to shift the attention at will, I can shift it away from pain. Ever content means ever thankful. Ever content and ever thankful is really the same thing. Steady in meditation. Many people say, oh, I sit down, oh yeah, no, I can't do it. I can't do it today. Tomorrow will be better. Sit down the next day, no. I'll do it next week. Then it becomes next year. Then it becomes on your deathbed. So, self-controlled and possessed of firm conviction. Self-controlled. Firm conviction. Firm conviction is faith. Faith has a range. Blind faith, we've discussed at one end, but unwavering conviction is there at the other end because of personal experience, empirical understanding. With mind and intellect fixed on me, fixed on God. He, my devotee, is dear to me. Dear means near. Does the Lord attach any value to the wealth and property dedicated to him? Nothing whatsoever. The Lord bestows his grace on that devotee only who has inordinate love, who has an inordinate love and devotion for him. The blessed Lord attaches all importance to devotion, discrimination, and detachment from worldliness. Thus says Sri Ramakrishna. Yasman no dvijati loko lokan, no dvijati chayaha. He by whom the world is not afflicted, and whom the world cannot afflict, who is free from joy, anger, fear, and anxiety, he is dear to me. Should we not be joyful? Free from joy, what does that mean? It means you're free from exaggerated behavior. An outburst of joy here and depression there. That's the normal, so-called normal thing. But normalcy is surely more of an equilibrium. When we say something is normal, we mean there's no exaggerated parts. You're in normal health, it doesn't mean to say one day you have a temperature and the next day you don't. He who is free from joy, anger, fear and anxiety, free from all these disturbing emotions, free from these waves in the mind. Anger is a great destroyer. It's a lack of understanding of the holistic nature of existence itself, and there's only one existence, and there's only one mind, and there's only one energy, and whatever you do, you're doing to yourself. So in the Enneagram we have that for a particular personality. I wrote myself, an angry letter and received a defiant reply. So he is free from all of this and anxiety. How many people suffer from anxiety? Free from it. Because not future orientated, living here, living now. He is dear to me. Sri Ramakrishna says that man wastes his own time and energy who always engages himself in recounting the worth of the others. For in doing so, he neither gains in building his own character, nor in getting fixed in the glory of the Lord. Anapeksha shuchye daksha udasino gatavyatha salvaramba parityagi yo madbhaktaha Swami priya. He who has no wants and pratiyagi, renouncing all undertakings, who is pure and prompt, unconcerned, untroubled, and who is selfless in all his undertakings. He who is thus devoted to me is dear to me. He who has no wants, if you say, I want this, it means I haven't got it. It doesn't mean I'm content. It's the very opposite. I want means, brackets, I haven't got. Even in a religious context, the greatest difficulty in all of this, in this I and my, is spiritual pride. I'm better than that person, you see. Jesus illustrates it, it, isn't it? The Pharisee and the, who is it?
Oh, the sinner, the Pharisee in the front of the synagogue.
Yeah.
He thanked God he wasn't like that sinner at the back of the church.
Yes.
So,
humble man going in the back of the church, please forgive me. The Pharisee coming, I'm such a great person. Look at this miserable worm at the back. See, I go to the synagogue every day, and I have a good reputation, and all the rest of it. You see,
observes the Sabbath and all the rules that
all the rules.
Judaism required.
These rules are destructive, and they fall into this category of this ritualism, mindless ritualism. It's better than nothing, but by the same token, see, what does it do? It puffs up the very worst in us. Vivekananda said, if I were to look for a Satan, I'd find it in the ego. So, who is pure, unconcerned, untroubled, who is selfless in all his undertakings, always calm, but selfless. Vivekananda says this, you see, if a person is sincere and truthful, that is, if his thoughts, words and deeds all match nicely, and he is completely selfless, even if he's an atheist, he'll get to the same destiny, the same revelation of the truth as the theist, who may well be a hypocrite, you see. It's better to be an atheist than a hypocrite. Vivekananda's language. So he is thus devoted to me, he is dear to me. So no new undertakings, no wants, independent. He who is not deceived by his own mind, a person such as he alone gains access to the divine presence of the Lord. The point comes to this: an attitude free from guile and deceit, and a devotion true to the core. These are the means to take one Godward, says Sri Ramakrishna. Yo na hrashtati na dvishti na shochati na kankshati subhasubha parityagi bhaktimam ya same priya. He who neither rejoices nor hates nor grieves nor desires, renouncing good and evil, full of devotion, he is dear to me. He who neither rejoices nor hates. Some sudden news comes to somebody. Oh yes, is that the case? Okay. Another person might say, what? And go into panic mode. See? What do you mean we're broke? He who neither rejoices nor hates nor grieves. These are all pairs of opposites. Now you see, grief is a difficult thing because there's a whole science, as it were, about bereavement. And somebody can ask somebody and say, you see, you're cold-hearted because what? You don't grieve? Well, of course, most people grieve. It's a natural, normal thing. But here we're talking of the extraordinary. And it's simply based on this knowledge that says, we're all going to live, we're all going to die, we're all born, we'll all be born again, and we'll all die again, and a seed is born, and a tree comes about, and a tree begets a seed, and the tree will die, but a new one will be planted. So it goes on, so it goes on, so it goes on. A galaxy will be born, and a galaxy will die. So this is really the reality. And so a person who understands and knows this has no reaction like this. Neither rejoices, nor hates, nor grieves, nor desires, renouncing good and evil. This is sometimes difficult for theistically inclined people to understand. Are we not supposed to be good? But this person has transcended good and evil. In order to appreciate evil, there has to be good. In order to appreciate good, there has to be evil. Good and evil are part and parcel of this world. We should have no business to complain and say everybody should be good, everything should be good. No, sometimes the weather is kind, and sometimes the weather is not. This is just the way life is, a balancing act. If we become attached to it, if we become egocentric about it, then we will suffer. The price for it is suffering. So, completely balanced in all things. God's presence cannot be felt in that heart which is given to attachment, aversion and fear. It boils down to that, says Sri Ramakrishna. These are the things. We're attached to something, we're pulling away from a fearful situation. Attachment and aversion, this is the way we normally play the game. We go towards something that we like, something that is pleasurable, pulling away from something that is painful or fearful. And this is how we maneuver ourselves in the game of life. And what happens? Overall, we experience disappointment and pain. I expected more. That was your difficulty. Then, two passages we can take together. Samaha shatro cha mitre chatata mana pamana yoho sitoshna sukha dukkeshu samaha sangavivirya chitaha. He who is the same to foe and friend. He's the same to enemy and a friend. What it boils down to is, I don't really have the friends and enemies. I'm clever enough to understand who's in my favor and who's not, but an equal attitude to both. And also in honor and dishonor, who is the same in cold and heat, pleasure and pain, who is free from attachment, to whom censure and praise are equal. Somebody censors me, what a pity. Somebody praises me, Swami, what? 2,000 followers on YouTube. Next day, walk down the street like this. He says, oh, I see you had 2 likes. And 1 dislike. To whom censure and praise are equal, who is silent. Empty vessels make the most noise. Content with anything, homeless, steady-minded. Homeless, because the whole world is his home. Steady-minded, full of devotion. That man is dear to me. You may think that you're a proud homeowner, but it's God's house. Don't think it's yours. And if you live in a place called Bermuda or somewhere like that, then the great hurricane could easily take your house away. Walls, roof and all. See, day and night are inevitable on earth, but the blazing sun, in the blazing sun they have no place. And friendship and enmity are but natural among fellow beings. But in the fervor of the divine love of God, all these differences vanish. Just like the sun eclipses all of these petty shadows. They vanish of their own accord. This is the beauty about Bhakti Yoga. We don't have to leave off anything. All of this, we never had to leave off anything. Renunciation is there, but what kind of renunciation? The kind where we are attracted toward the divine. And with the attraction toward the divine, the attraction toward the world fades away by itself. Like people who are in love one day, out of love the next, and in love the next. What became of your old love? It went away, replaced. An illicit love in the initial stage is mindful of shame and social decorum, but when it deepens into open familiarity, all sense of shame is set aside. There is some similarity between this and the divine love of God, which pays no heed to honor and dishonor. And when we consider Bhakti Yoga, of course, is worth studying the various stages of intensity in this love, culminating in supreme ecstasy. While the former leads to the fallen one, to depravity, the latter elevates the devotee into the sublime. That is, somebody who pays no heed to honor and dishonor. The worldly people are flippant, both in honoring and dishonoring a devotee of God, but unconcerned that he is with these passing phases, the devotee goes headlong in his love of the Maker. See the language, headlong. Diving into the ocean, diving into the sweet honey pot, not standing on the edge, immersing yourself completely in self-forgetful love. How beautiful. So to the one subject to body consciousness, the feeling of cold and heat is natural with the change of climate, but to the one given to the divine ecstasy, born of bhakti, this feeling doesn't come. They're entirely preoccupied. The feeling of pleasure and pain is concomitant with the feeling of cold and heat. When the attachment to the body is overcome, these feelings disappear as a matter of course. A worldly man with a talent for music sings to receive the applause of the public. He derives pleasure in their praise and pain in their censure, if any. Pain in their censure, happiness in their praise. But when a bhakta, a devotee, with his heart full, sings the glory of the Lord, he's indifferent to censure and praise. His activities are likely to be exposed to public remarks, but he remains dead to all their observations and goes his own divine way. So he who holds to the ideal, have thou no home. What home can hold thee, friend? The sky thy roof, the grass thy bed. The devotee thinks nothing but God. He is therefore steady-minded. He gives himself completely to God, and so he becomes the favorite also. And Sri Ramakrishna says, do not allow worldly thoughts and concerns disturb your mind. Discharge your duties as and when they present themselves to you. But fasten your mind ever at the feet of the Lord. Make a reminder, tie it in your cloth, carry on with your duties. Or attach yourself, like children, attach yourself to a pole when they swing around. They don't let go of the pole and fly off. They hold on to the pole and go round. In that way, all your activities, fix your mind on the divine. And then, Yetu dharmyamratam idam yatoktam paryopashati Sradhatana mat parama bhaktaste ta me priyaha. Those truly who follow this immortal teaching, and the word is dharma, which implies something kept in balance and harmony. We know something is good in an overall sense, not good in a bad, a kind of good and bad, sun and moon, shadow and light sense, not in that sense. But we know that it is purifying. We know it's purifying when it brings harmony. So this immortal teaching, this immortal dharma, this immortal law described in the foregoing stanzas, a person who follows this with shraddha, with complete conviction, complete faith, with absolute certainty, looking upon me, that is the Lord of the universe, as the supreme goal, devoted, they are exceedingly dear to me. Finally, Sri Ramakrishna says this: Bhakti, devotion is of two kinds, the Vedika Bhakti and the Prema Bhakti. To conform to the injunction in the scripture, to chant the name of the Lord as many times as prescribed, to fast and pray, to go on pilgrimage, to perform ritualistic worship with the aid of the enjoyed materials, all these belong to the former kind. And most people fall into this category. If they're honest, they'll say, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm marking time. I'm ticking boxes. I'm doing what the requirement is. And some, the minimum is the maximum. An earnest pursuance of these means, though, leads the devotee ultimately into the latter, the Prema Bhakti, the devotion of ecstatic love, in which there is no place for any kind of earthly attachment. The Bhakta gives himself over entirely to the Lord. This wholehearted offering is graciously accepted. A movement comes in, an inflow of grace comes in. When we create an opening, divine grace flows in. Graciously accepted by the Lord, and the devotee becomes his own, becomes near, and ultimately experiences oneness, is my addition. The path of karma in the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, and the path of bhakti in the second 6, which we have now completed, get united here in this stanza. And in the following 6 chapters, which we'll undertake next, will be now a part of a series on Vedanta, as understood really by the principles of Vedanta and Jnana Yoga, and ultimately the Advaita aspect of Vedanta. This is covered more in the following 6 chapters, starting from 13th chapter, with a very significant concept of Kshetra Kshetrajna a field and the knower of the field. So the following 6 chapters, the path of jnana remains to get united with these two, karma and bhakti, and we've already discussed dhyana yoga in the 6th chapter. So 3 of the 4 yogas described by Swami Vivekananda have been covered. And the next 6 chapters will uncover and discover and explore this jnana yoga path. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastri Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvari Bhakti Yoga Nama Dvadoshadhyaya. In the Upanishad of the Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge of Brahman, supreme, the science of yoga, and the dialogue between Shri Krishna and Arjuna. This is the 12th discourse designated Bhakti Yoga, Yoga of Devotion. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.